So let me start and welcome everyone and thank you for today. And let me give you a small brief about myself. My name Hasan Jamal Siddiqui and I work as a Power Platform consultant and advisor and currently based in Calgary, Canada. And along with I'm focusing on the Azure AI Foundry, Agentic AI and Copilot architecture under the Power Platform. And this session is relatively technical. We are going to go under the hood of how Microsoft has evolved from single should promote engineering through Copilot and into the true agentic AI system that plan calls tools and act autonomously across enterprise system. Well cover in the 8 platform we are going to define like Azure Foundry, Copilot, Power Automate, Dataverse. We'll also show the Power BI, SharePoint, and OpenAI agentic and semantic kernel. And mostly my session will be based on the knowledge, okay, how we can utilize the Microsoft ecosystem technology to make agent from prompt to agentic. Okay, 8 block across session. I segregated here. The first, I will go for the technical foundation layer by layer and starting with what an agent actually is under the hood. And then moving through each Microsoft Surface like Copilot, Copilot Studio, Azure, AI Foundry, the orchestration SDK, and finally, I will go for the Power Platform. And data estimate that agent draw on will show how we can connect with the different other data sources with the agent. And last 25 minutes, I'm going to be show the one user case where how we can utilize agentic AI in the right mode. Also, AI scenario where walk through the screen by screen so you can see exactly how all these pieces click together in a live business process. I'll build a little buffer into each block. Okay. If we run along our teacher discussion, we will trim from takeaway and you can ask the question later. So let's start with the foundation. Before we look at any Microsoft ecosystem product, I want us to have a precise shared technical definition of what an agent actually is. What design patterns show up again and again, how Microsoft various product map onto one coherent reference architecture. This grounded matter for the agentic AI. So let's make for the next level, okay? The foundation, the agentic AI stack from prompting to agent. So let's define term precisely because these 4 layers get conflated constantly in vendor marketing. Layer 1 is a pure prompting, okay? A single call can and call to an LLM, okay? Stateless, no tool output. Quality is a function of how well you engineer the instruction. This is where prompt engineering as a discipline lived. Layer 2, retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval augmented generation, now the prompt is enriched with retrieved context before the model ever sees it. In the Microsoft stack, this is the semantic index behind Microsoft 365 Copilot or a vector index in Azure AI Search. And layer 3, tool augmentation generation. Okay, so tool augmentation generation, the model doesn't just read context, it requests action, call an API, query a database, trigger a flow, the model propose, a runtime dispose. Layer 4, we can go for the agentic AI that add planning, looping, controlling, persisting. We add a control loop that can run this tool calling process repeatedly, holding memories across the step, pursuing a multi-step goals with reduced human supervision. This is the layer called Azure AI Factory Agents. And Copilot Studio generatively orchestration operate at, and it is the layer we will spend the rest of the session on. So anatomy of an AI agent, okay, this is the mental model I want you to carry through the whole session, okay, whether you are looking at a Copilot, Studio, the Azure AI Foundry, agent service, or hands-rolled Python agent using the OpenAI Agent SDK. You will always find these 5 components. This reason core is the LLM itself. It doesn't execute anything. It's only decide what should happen next and produce test or structure to call memory split. Tool action, you can type function model, can invoke API connection, plugging, code integration. Okay. After grounding will become where retrieval happen. Okay. I'll go for the detail in the next slide. Enterprise level knowledge, whatever like we have it, multi kind of data source. We can use the SharePoint, Dataverse, Azure, Databricks, AI search index. So something durable like we can store in the vector. Okay, like vector store or a Dataverse table that persists across the session. And also, so 4 patterns that will keep coming up, and I want to name them explicitly, like react. Okay, reason plus act is the workspace or workhorse pattern the model produce it through thought, decide, like an action, and executor runs it. The observer goes back into the context and its loop. This is the defined shape of both Azure AI Foundry agents services, run, and Copilot Studio generative orchestration. Plan and execution, front load the things, generate the whole plan upfront, then work through the steps. So you can see like multi-agent orchestration, okay, where we can coordinate with a multiple agent and execute on the one centralized location. So I'll go for the one under the foundation. Okay, Microsoft Agentic AI reference architecture. Okay, this is a master diagram where I will refer back to it. Was go through each product step to dive inside the every step. It's worth sitting with for a moment. And at the top, the experience layer is where a human actually types or speaks, like Teams, Microsoft 365 Copilot, either Power App, either custom embedded chat widget. So below that is the agent where orchestration layer will become. Okay. So agent and orchestration level, we can call Azure AI Foundry agent services for pro code enterprise agent. And then we can also utilize OpenAI agent SDK or semantic kernel when we have some complex business requirement, when we require to code some script under the Python. So, and in the governance level, where we can do the intra agent ID, Microsoft Purview, content safe, Azure monitoring tracking, and we can do the governance by the CO starter kit. So now let's move product by product. Okay. So starting with the Microsoft Copilot, since it is the surface most people in any organization, actually any end user, they touch first Copilot. Okay, so how is grounded response? If your own tenant data and then extensively model is defined, so any user can start using from their own Copilot, and the Copilot is based on the your solution or Azure AI Foundry or back we can do in this slide. So the grounding and orchestration loop, that is very important. Okay, that how work under the Copilot. You can see I divided in the 5 part like prompt, grounding, pre-processing, post-processing, and response. Okay, under this hood, like even Microsoft 365 request goes through the same 5 stages. Okay, like the same 5 stages, like step 2 is one of the different, it from a generic chat GPT. The prompt comes in front from where app in you are in this. The semantic index for Copilot build on Microsoft Graph, retrieve relevant email, chat, file, meetings, whatever Outlook mail we are getting, whatever example like invoice we are getting. So whatever we require to retrieve, we can use the Microsoft Graph, and there we'll do the pre-process, and it is and Copilot can be make after the we can do the post processing, and we will get the response in the last, where response that grounded contain is merged with the prompt and sent to on Azure hosted large language model through Copilot orchestration, which also decide if any plugin or graph connector uh, need to be involved. So Copilot power come with almost entirely from the grounding step. Swap in your own tenant graph data, and the same orchestration pattern is what Copilot Studio and Azure AI Foundry generalize into a fully programmatical agent. So Copilot is extensibility, the one ramp to agentic behavior. Okay, I'd point if someone asks where does agentic behavior actually start in the Microsoft ecosystem, the answer is right here in Copilot extensibility model, declarative agent or JSON, manifest define, specific instruction, knowledge source, action without writing a full application. They are authorized in Copilot Studio, in Teams, Toolkit, and then Surface Native inside the M365 Copilot experience. API plugin now standardized as an action. Use an open API scheme to describe your REST endpoint, like name description, parameter, and that is a structured identify to how you define a tool for the OpenAI Agent SDK or a functional calling scheme in Azure AI. Once you have written one good OpenAI specs, you can reuse it across all this surface. Graph connector let you pull third-party system, like example, ServiceNow, Confluence, customer line, or business app. Okay, let's see, I'll take the ServiceNow if some ticket has come generated, and how you can do the performance on that ticket. Okay, how the ticket is executed, how much time is consumed, and we can automate it to run whatever the required ask inside the ticket. So, and also the same semantic index Copilot grounded on, we can utilize the Copilot can reason over data that didn't organize in Microsoft 365. And team native, letting a user search or trigger or action on external system directory inside. We are about to see a scale in Copilot Studio and Azure AI Factory, where we can multiple connector we can utilize by the different third-party tool. So the Copilot Studio, that is very, I can say under the citizen developer, or we can, as in my past experience, I enable under the citizen developer where user are utilizing Copilot, okay, on the whatever we assign them the free process credit. They made their own application because it's based on the low code. It's not required any technical deep knowledge to build the Copilot to agent. Okay, and the low code platform where maker and pro developer actually also if you go for the complex where pro developer required, and pro developer actually build a custom autonomous agent. This is the tool I use most often client side, so I'll spend real time on the technology. uh, uh, and also uh, like we can utilize in the multiple way. I'll in the different way. So architecture, I will show this how architecture work under the canvas, okay, where we can use the topic, generative orchestration, knowledge source, action, agent, application lifecycle management. These six components make up the platform. Topic are still the basic unit of conversation design, but the big architecture shift in the last couple of years is generative orchestration. Instead of you writing up a rigid decision tree or if trigger phrase matches, go to the topics like planning, grade LLM looks at the conversation and decide turn by turn whether to answer generative from grounded knowledge and jump into an authorized topical call at knowledge source are clunked and embedded begin the scene. Also, we can mention here under the life cycle, like Copilot Studio at SharePoint site, a public website, data was stable or uploaded file, edit, build in retrieval index. Automatically, you don't manage vector infrastructure yourself. Action or the tool calling surface, any of the 1400 plus Power Platform connector, custom connector to assign your own API, a full Power Automate, Cloudflow, or an Azure function you can utilize as and make your function. All modules are typed tools with input and output. The orchestration can invoke agent flows or they never more purely agentic primitive. So I can say that agentic live inside solution and get prompted dev to test to production through managed environment and pipeline exactly like any other Power Platform application, which is the piece enterprise architect usually asks about first. So I'll go for the inside generative orchestration turn, okay, like user direction, planner reason, in title execution, tool selection, and education. So and how the grounded generation work and Gardel check will do. So this is a taste I want to burn into your memory because it's the same 7-step shape where you are debugging Copilot Studio, an Azure AI, Foundry agent run, or a hand roll agent SDK loop. The user attention arrive as a plain test. The user like itself in LLM call. He put some uh, example. Okay, so the it's pattern match knowledge is reason over the conversation and score which authorhood topic or generative path best fill. Informed by each topic description, in title execution, pull structure slot, amount item, cost center, out of free test using the same model, the planner then recognize a factual gap it can answer from its own training. The actual remaining budget selected a tool to close the gap, exactly the react pattern from earlier, the tool execute outside the model entirely. This is a real data was query, determine, auditable, and return structured data. Grounded generation compose the final answer using the tool result plus any retrieve policy test. So the number quoted to the user is never allocation. It's value that came out of real query. So you can, and from maker canvas to govern product, like we created multiple environment like dev environment, solution support, pipelining, and manage environment on the prod. And after that, monitoring by the either CO certificate or many other tool we have where we can monitor through this one. And I get in almost every client workshop where Copilot Studio just for a citizen developer, or can IT actually govern this properly? Okay, The answer is in this pipeline, and it should look familiar to anyone who has shipped a Power Platform app before a maker builds in an unmanaged dev environment. The agent, like any Power Platform component, actually live inside a Dataverse solution, which is the same packaging mechanism as a Canvas app or model-driven app. That is, solution gets exported version control with connection reference and environment variable respect. So the same solution package can point at a different SharePoint site or Dataverse environment per stage. Like we have a dev, UAT, and production. If you are moving that one, so we can easily manage for the for Power Platform pipeline or Azure DevOps. If you want deeper CI/CD impact, the managed solution into test running solution checker that you can manage through the ALM. Same like how we are moving for the Power Platform app, flows, or anything. So easily we can explain in this 5 aspect. So next topic I will is very well known is the Power Platform and the data state. Agents are only as good as what they can do, what they can see. This section cover the hands, Power Automate, and the memory and knowledge, and source like Dataverse, SharePoint, and Azure Databricks. I'll get deeper technical here because in almost every enterprise engagement, the hard problem lies in this layer, not in the LLM itself. Data quality, security role, connector governance are what actually determine whether an agent project succeeded. So let's cover for this one. Okay. So you can see like two execution model, like how Cloudflow run and how Agentflow run. Okay. So Power Automate now expose two distinct execution model, and picking the right one is a common architecture decision point. Cloud flows are the classic model most of you already know. Triggered by an HTTP call, or a connector event, or a scheduler, or a Dataverse, row changes, or by SharePoint, or executing a sequential receipt of condition loop, and connector action include native. Approve reject approval step. When an agent call like one an action, it it's synchronized from the agent's perspective. Call will get structure output back. Agent flow are never and more interesting architectural. These are triggered by the agent's own reason with nobody waiting on the other end, and then can blend naturally language instruction with the determination connection step inside the same flow definition, that combination of many connection. And also letting a flow, author says, like summarize this in a way that fits the vendor tone, like write test to rigid, update the data was row step is generally new as a rule of thumb. Use with client like connector, the how the process is going, how reconciliation will going, how monitoring, batch outage, agent flow is how flowing. So this is very important. The common will come under the cloud flow and agent flow. The between uh, the how we are triggering the flows, and how invocation, how executing, and best for. So that's two is very important to pillar for Power Automate, that mostly agent executed on the flows and data transfer between the execution on the flows. So I'll go a little bit small regarding the Dataverse. Okay, so Dataverse where I can say most of the client, they want to put anything on agent need to remember durability or reason over structured. Okay, and which belong which belong in a SharePoint or Azure AI search. It's a full relation platform under the hood, strongly typed tables, columns, calculated and rolled off fields, and relationship that enforce referential integrity. An agent right has to satisfy the same business rule, human rights, security, governance, consciousness, row and column level security through a security role, business unit, we can define under the data wars. Also through the DLP policies, we can enable that one. We can use when we are getting the environment, we can enable the data wars that can utilize or not. But under the agentic AI, we must have to be to enable. So that way, tools and column use, relationship use, security roles we define, and business rule we define like server-side logic or plugins, power effects, column-based business rules that everything we can define under the Dataverse. And let's see also I'll be introduce the SharePoint here. Okay, this unstructured knowledge made agent ready. Okay, like document library, like policies, control, procedure, stored with the metadata, contained types and retention label, everything holds with the property hold with the document library. So also I can say SharePoint is almost always the biggest, massive, most valuable knowledge source in any enterprise agent project. Most of the organization, they are widely using SharePoint. So agent target is mostly it is most scenario come to integrate with a SharePoint knowledge source. So let's be pleased about how it's actually become agent ready. It started as a document library, policies, contractor, procedure with metadata, content type, and retention label already applied ideally by information management practice, and SharePoint syntax adds AI model that auto-classify document and structure field. So right at ingestion time, which turns unstructured document into semi-structured record without a human re-keying them, Microsoft Graph Connector, or and the injection pipe into the broad semantic index. The same index, Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio and Azure AI Search can all draw from, and connector are not limited to SharePoint. You can index ServiceNow, Confluence, or custom line of business system. The same way under the hood, same like what we do with the SharePoint. And so most of the organization, they utilize Copilot agent to search the keyword in their knowledge based on the SharePoint, whatever the like SOPs or anything we are hosting on the SharePoint, that we can on the user tip or employee tip, they can find the data through by the building the custom agents. And so where Databricks fits, also Databricks is very now common data source for any organization. Okay, and Azure Databricks is a very good connector where we can communicate with the Databricks. Okay, where like anything we want to do, like data lake or if you want to be store the large kind of data and you want to do the sum calculation, use the Databricks. That's a very easy mode. So like Databricks is fit it's very good way with the Azure AI Foundry. Already has a model catalog. They many catalog there in the different problem, mature architecture. We can use the many calculative things there. The lake house, delta tables, there was a many branch, silver, gold layer data was there. So we can utilize based on our requirement. So I'll not go but in this. So how the data state feels an agent and end-to-end. Like let's see SharePoint plus syntax. We can utilize the Azure Datapic and Dataverse, Azure AI set, and through agent. Pulling the last three slides together into one flow, you can see unstructured knowledge starts in SharePoint, enriches by syntax, large scale analytical work happen, synchronization in Databrick, patch scoring things like anomaly or risk model, both of those along with core transaction. And it's record in the Dataverse. After that, get unified into Azure AI search as an retrieval layer. The agent can query with a single cell, and we can whether it need a policy clause, a risk score, or a budget figure. The agent can whatever, whether it's running in Azure AI Foundry agent service or Copilot Studio sites at the end of this pipeline. Its plan retrieve from whichever source is relevant. The tools will call and act all inside it gradually. The box at the bottom in the architecture principle, uh, I will not compromise on any client engagement. Every source keep its own security model. All the way through this pipeline, the agent effectively access and is never broader than the union of what the requesting uh, like human could uh, uh, can ask anything. So we can human could already reach directly in Azure SharePoint, Dataverse, or Azure UI search if a design process a service identity with blanket access to make the agent smarter. That's the point where I stop and push back. It's the governance regress dress up as a feature. So I'll give you some Azure AI Foundry, how we can utilize in Agentic AI. This is the Pro Code Enterprise Engine room, model catalog, agent services, retrieval, evaluation. So Azure AI Foundry is where things get properly pro-coded, and it's the platform I spend the most architecture time on with client who outgrow low code or need something Copilot Studio does not expose. Fine grinded model like choice, custom evaluation, pipeline, or full SDK level control will go through its structural architecture. The agent service actually runtime primitive. How to choose a model from the catalog and the retrieve augmented generation pattern underneath most production agent. So foundry structure built on the blocks. So uh, let's map the nouns like, okay, because foundry terminology is trips people up in the first project. At the very top is the foundry resource itself, an Azure resource that is scope, billing, networking, and region. Underneath that, a hub, centralized, shared connection, and a compute for an organization. While projects are isolated, workspace underneath a one hub. So like connection, secure reference to Azure Search, Azure OpenAI, storage, Key Vault. We can use multiple connection under the AI Foundry. And deployment, we can specifically model from the catalog. We can deploy with a throughput like pay as you go or provision, and content filter policy we can use during deployment. And agent and thread like agent services resource, we can provide the instruction tools, conversation thread, run, execute against it. So I'll give you the example. Okay, this is the actual programming model, and I want to spend real time there because it's the piece that separate, I have used Copilot from where I can build a custom agent. You can create an agent object once, a reusable definition of a model, instruction, and list of tools. Like you can queue, run, create, and wait for the worker. You second step in progress, model reasoning, deciding next step, required section where we can model requested tool. Your code must execute under this uh, section, and after again in progress where we can define the model consumption tool outcome counting reason, and finally assist message added to the thread. So this is small Python script where we can run threads and tool calls. So choosing from the model catalog, okay, there is a multiple model catalog under the Azure AI for Foundry, okay, like we can say the model family as GPT-4o, GPT-4.1 class, okay, and that best for general agentic reasoning tool calling, multi-model input, okay, and deployment also you can use the pay as you, and key tracker you can see like highest capability, highest cost per token is known, GPT-4 known for this one for higher cost, okay. So the model catalog generally large, and it's I can say GPT-4 and GPT-4.1 class model are the default choice for the general agentic reasoning and tool calling, and strong all around compatibility, multi-model input, but the most expensive per token. So much consumption in high volume scenario, the O series reasoning model, trade latency, and cost for deeper multi-step reasoning. So I reach for this selectively for the one hard planning or policy and interpretation subtasks in a pipeline, not for every turn of a conversation like fee, Microsoft is small language, model family, the right call when latency or edge deployment required. And the RAG is retrieval augmented generation, technically gets mentioned constantly and implemented slowly. So let's be exactly about the six real step here, because Azure AI search is doing more than vector search. In a mature setup, and ingestion and chunking split source document into passage of roughly 500 of thousand tokens, and good implementation, preserve heading and section context. So I can say the chunks is in not in the orphan sentence fragment. Each chunk gets embedded, turned into a vector by an embedded model, and that vector is stored alongside a rich metadata. And source document like permission, last modified data like Azure AI search, and also build a generally hybrid index. So vector similarly for semantic matching, traditional BM225 keyword scoring for exact term precision, and an optional semantic re-ranking pass on top. So because poor vector search along under number of time the user question will be embedded and matches again, that hybrid index will return the top K passage along with their source metadata and critical filters by querying identity permission. Those passes get injected into the model context windows alongside the actual question and system instruction. So like you can like how cited and grounded response generation in instruction to cited passage source, evaluation SDK can score grounded and before release. So I'll go for the next for orchestration SDK. For the minority of scenario that generally need full code level control, complex multi-agent hands-off, custom guardian logic, integration with existing debates, our code base. Microsoft ecosystem give you to close later SDK optional. We can look at the OpenAI SDK, where OpenAI Agentic SDK, actual code shape, the orchestration pattern, and we will go through the like how semantic kernel, Microsoft own orchestration framework, and how it's we can utilize this one. So this is a real representative code, slightly simplified, but structural, accurate to how the OpenAI agent SDK used for from Python today, and it's run natively against Azure AI Foundry agent. Okay, and Azure service at its backend, the function tool decode is doing real work. It inspect type Python function, signature, decision, and auto-generated the JSON schema. The model need to call it correctly. So you can see that the piece of the code where we can define the function hands off, how it will run, how it's tracking the build. And then it will be under the orchestration SDK, we have a 3 multi-agent orchestration topology where we can use the sequential pipeline, hierarchy, and collaborative. Okay, so let's see agent A output become agent B input in a fixed order. Example, we do the sum extract, then validate, and then summarize, and predictable. Easy to test, but inflexible if a step need to reorder. And in the hierarchy, like one orchestration agent classified intent, like and hands off the full conversation to the right specialist, or we can say do pro common policy example scale well as a specialist grow. And collaborative is like is multiple peer agents like contribute to a shared context or debates a plan before a aggregation. So I'll give you one example later. And which orchestral layer should you actually use? Okay, so we define is multiple way. So uh, the question I get mostly often in by the most of the organization. Okay, so any Foundry or Copilot Studio demos, or which one should we actually build on? Here, the honest comparison I give to the many organization, Copilot Studio is almost at maker and business analyst. Okay, author visualization with generative orchestration doing the heavy lifting, standard through the same the same I can say 1400 plus connector there, and Power Automate flows. We convert we covered earlier that it's come with the ALM, DLP, and manage environment essential for free. So choose it when the primary audience is business user and you want to iterate fast without a development team in the loop. So if you go for the OpenAI agent SDK is code. So sorry. So the OpenAI agent SDK is code first, that intentionally lightweight and portable. Python or TypeScript object for agents tool and hands-off running against the agent services. So choose it when you need fine-grained programmatic control, or you are building agent logic that need to be portable outside the Microsoft stack entirely. And similar like I can say for the semantic kernel is a Microsoft own orchestration SDK, and its suite is spot in deep integrated into an existing enterprise like .NET, Python, or Java application. It's plugged into your existing dependencies, injustice, injections like authentication, telemeter, and many things. So, and like .NET Enterprise application are very heavily used by the most organization. And if you want to adding a agentic capability into it, 17 kernel is usually the more natural fit than the agentic SDK in practice. And as I see, larger client often end up using two of these three: Copilot Studio for the business user-facing agent, and the agentic SDK or semantic understanding for the pro code service. Those agents call into their complementary and not mutual exclusive. So Copilot Studio is very good for the business where Microsoft ecosystem is running. So I'll go for the security, governance, and response AI. What agent can do. This section is about what stop them from doing the wrong thing. If every enterprise engagement I have run, so I want to go through the three pillar here. Okay, so this is the single most important slide in the governance section because it's answered the question every CISO asks in the first 5 minutes. What is the agent actually running as? Okay, the foundation answer is that every agent gets its own real identity in Microsoft Intra, not a shared service principle. That 10 different automation reuse, but individually governed identity, the same class of object as a user account or an app restriction. That entity gets scoped, list privilege permission, and full life. So we like full life visibility, like agent identity appear in the intra admin center alongside user and apps, discoverable, audible, and recoverable like any other principal. So that's for cover how we can refine that our governance. So if intra agent ID not answer, who is the agent? Purview answer. Okay. What is the agent allowed to do with data and can we prove it here? And DLP policies operate an agent action the same way the operate on a human action. If an agent try to move data from connector classified as a business only into a non-business connector, that policy blocks are warm exactly as it would be a person doing it manually through Outlook to OneDrive. Since sensitivity level is defined there, conditional, right? Highly confidential, applied in SharePoint or Dataverse, that also will be traced by the purview. So we can be trace the log from there. And responsibility guardian built into a pipeline. Okay. And content safety, baseline filter, say the keyword like hate, violation, self-harm, sexual constraint, contents applied on the both what goes into the model and what comes out. With severity threshold, you can tune per scenario. Groundness detection is more specific to agentic and RAG scenario. So we can like human in the loop gates or continuous evolution, we can define the event. So let's see, I'll go for, I have a less time, so I'll go for the full use case. Okay. And how it's going to be, I'll show you that how automation, I'll take the one AI scenario where end-to-end AI automation related with the procurement and budget approval agent for any business case like banking, manufacturing, and utility or anywhere we can use this model, right? So I will show the actual interface, how single step team, Copilot Studio, Azure AI, Foundry, Dataverse, SharePoint, Power Automation, and live operation. I'll show the dashboard, how it will work. Okay, so I'll take the one example. Okay, so you see the difference before the agentic and after the agentic. Okay, so before the agentic, purchase request email to manager, often lost in inbox volume, because big organization getting the more than 200, 300 purchase requests on the daily basis. Okay, there is no consistent budget check before a request reach on approval. What is the because many human are only managing the mailbox where purchases happen, then purchase volume, purchase bill amount they are managing, then also policy thread applied on their average approval routing time for let's say it take the over a day or many time. And also audit trail is scattered across mail, chat, and spreadsheet. But when agent come, so it will request made very conversational in the teams, agents, hands and rate. Let's see triaging. Okay, so we can budget checking against the data in real time. Every request like procurement policy. So I'll give you example. Let's see. I'll also give the invoice based how now one big organization, they are receiving more than 200 invoice on the daily basis. Okay, and the 200 invoice, okay, they want to manage to move from Outlook to SharePoint or some source location. From there, they want to take the action. They want to do the triaging. If the bill amount is more than 1 million, that should go for the approval. If bill amount less than 500K, it should auto approve. This we can do through the agentic AI. Like how we can do, let's see, I'm reading the Outlook mail. If 200 invoice has been coming on the daily basis, we are reading the Outlook body attachment. Okay, based on the company, based on the organization, we are making the structure either open source or open test, either SharePoint, where we are creating the structure by the company name. To the Power Platform automation, we are getting the folders by the name, and we are putting the all invoice there. Similar, then we are triaging on the invoice. Let's see in the invoice value mentioned in the 500, 600K. Okay, if we put the condition like below than 500, should we go for the approval, not approval? It should be approved. Then automatically the item will be approved, and customer will get the mail through our Power Platform flows. But if we want to do something on that one, so our agent will be called for take the some action on this one. Okay, so let's see, take the approval action. So if you do start the approval action on the ground, it will go for the approval and approve. So see this mechanism, procurement and invoicing system, how easily we can manage by the agentic. So it's very easy way. It's earlier was in the past that process will take 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Now within minute it's gone. Mail is coming. This is sorting, putting on the right place and sending for the right approval within second. So this is the difference before and after. So I don't have much time to go for the inside the solution. Okay, so I will also give the many other scenario. Okay, we like in any organization, every organization have a HR department. Okay, so we make the some chatbot like knowledge article, knowledge about the organization. Okay, if I want to know how many leave I have in my organization, I don't want to go and read the more than 30-page policy. I will go on the agent where I will put the data. Okay, let me know how many leave I have a pending. Okay, so it will be on the fingertips. So you don't need to spend much time to find out this kind of data. And that will come generate, then we will go for the agent. Okay, let's see, somebody have raised the ticket. Okay, my SharePoint access is not working. Okay, so the ticket will become in the Outlook. Okay, we will read the mail on the based on the content. We will take the action. Okay, by the through agent. Okay, let's see if multiple ticket is coming on the same aspect. We can route through agent and we can implement without any human intrusion. We can automatically close the ticket through the full process under the agentic AI concept. Okay, so that was thing. So like how the architect work. So I'll be explain here. Okay, I think I have passing the time, so I'll not take much time, but here I have some example where I can show you how it's work. Okay, so I'll go only run through uh, one by one. Okay, so if anyone have any query, they can connect to me later and I can explain you more deeper way how we can define this thing. Okay, so this is the common, like I build the one chatbot with Agentic AI, how procurement and budget we can approve. Okay, so you can see like the dashboard in the end, how it's going to be. So through the Power BI, we are building the dashboard where we can show how quickly we take the action on our procurement system. So, so many what made this use case actually work, like ground and don't hard code, okay, like policy live on the SharePoint and budget in data was never copy paste into a prompt, so both stay correct as the changes. Human in the loop where it's count, only the approval decision need a human. Data gathering and routing were fully autonomous. And last privilege agent identity, the agent intra-agent ID could search exactly the budget table, the policies library, the approval flow, and nothing more here. If you see the traceability by default, every tool call the decision was already lodged by Azure. Okay, so I will going to be wrap it. Okay, so best practices, it's come like, okay, one thing. And now I have wrap up. Okay, in so a field checklist for your next agent project. Okay, how we can start from the reference architecture, name every large before naming product, pick Copilot Studio, Foundry Agent, SDK, ground every facts and is agent stack like SharePoint, Dataverse, Azure AI Search, and never rely on model memory for business truth. And give every agent its own scope, like entire agent ID, no shared service principal ever. Author splitting human in the loop gets for high value. Okay, and turn on illusion, test data break, pilot in one case, and where Microsoft agentic AI platform is heading now. Okay, so let's see. I'll give example like multi-agent ecosystem. Okay, like deeper native support for agents. Okay, and deeper graph data state grounding, agent marketplace and templates, maturing agent governance uh, standard. So it's agentic AI platform is heading very fastly. So from answering prompt to running the business, every product we saw today, Copilot, Copilot Studio, Azure AI Foundry, Power Automate, Data Wash, SharePoint, and data with Azure Database is one coherent architecture, not a self-separate tool. So, okay, so that was my